The wind howled across the battlefield, carrying with it the bitter chill of a frozen night. Broken machines lay scattered in the snow, their metal frames covered in ice, glowing faintly under the pale moon. Amid the wreckage, a young alien girl struggled to move, her body shaking as the cold bit through her thin clothes. Her lips trembled, her skin pale, and her large alien eyes filled with fear. She was alone, lost, and weaker with each passing second. Her people had fled when the human forces attacked, leaving her behind like broken cargo. The memory burned in her chest. She had been told never to trust humans, to fear them, to fight them. But now, with her arms wrapped around herself and her body sinking into the snow, she realized she would not survive the night without help. Her breath came out in small clouds of mist, her heart racing as her strength drained away. Then she saw movement in the distance. A dark figure slowly walking through the smoke and snow. His steps were steady, his tall frame covered in a thick coat, his boots crunching against the frozen ground. The girl froze, her mind screaming danger. It was a human. She had heard stories. Humans were brutal, humans were merciless, humans destroyed without pity. Her instinct told her to crawl away, to hide in the wreckage, but her body refused to move. The human soldier stopped a few steps away, his sharp eyes locking onto her trembling form. For a long moment, silence stretched between them, broken only by the sound of the wind. The alien girl opened her mouth, but only a whisper came out. I am cold, she said, her voice cracking. Please. Warmth. Her words barely carried through the icy air. But the human heard them, his brow furrowed, not with anger, but with something she could not understand. Concern. Slowly, he removed the thick coat from his shoulders. The girl's eyes widened, shocked. Was this a trick? Was he mocking her? But then, gently, he stepped forward and draped the coat over her fragile body. The sudden warmth of the human's coat wrapped around her like fire, making her shiver in relief. She looked up at him, her voice trembling. Why help me? The human did not answer with many words. He only knelt down, his face calm, his eyes focused. You will not live the night without this, he said simply. Stay close to the fire, if you want to see the morning. Her heart pounded in confusion. No enemy had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever looked at her like that. Not as prey, not as a burden, but as someone worth saving. She wanted to pull away, to hold on to the fear that kept her alive. But instead, her body leaned closer to the warmth he gave. The human struck a spark, building a small fire from broken scraps of wood and metal. The flames flickered, pushing back the darkness, and for the first time in hours, she felt something other than cold. She felt safe, even if she did not want to admit it. The alien girl sat near the fire, wrapping the coat tighter around herself, her eyes still darting toward him with suspicion. The human sat across from her, silent, his rifle resting at his side, his gaze scanning the shadows. Every time the wind blew stronger, she flinched, but the fire kept burning, and the human kept watch. That strange calmness of his presence unsettled her. It was not what she expected. From a human warrior, she remembered her commander's words. Humans will never show you mercy. And yet here one was, keeping her alive. Her throat tightened as she thought of her people, who had abandoned her without a second thought. And this enemy was the one who gave her warmth. The girl looked at the fire, then at the human. Are you not afraid of me? She asked softly. The human tilted his head, his expression unreadable. You are freezing, not fighting, he replied. Fear does not matter now. Her chest ached at the words, because for the first time in her life, she felt seen, not as a soldier, not as an alien, but as someone fragile, someone alive. The snow kept falling around them, the flames dancing higher, and she realized the night would be long, but with him near, she no longer felt alone in the cold. Something inside her whispered that this encounter was the beginning of a story she could never have imagined, a story that might change everything. The fire crackled softly, sparks rising into the frozen night sky. The alien girl sat closer to the flames, her thin hands stretched out, trembling but finally feeling warmth. The human remained across from her, his coat gone from his own shoulders and resting on hers, his breath steady in the icy air. She watched him through the flickering light, confusion twisting inside her chest. Why would he help her? An enemy? Why give away his coat when the night was still cruel and sharp? The girl bit her lip, her mind racing, searching for a hidden reason. Her people had always taught her. Humans always want something. Humans never give without taking. Her large alien eyes studied his face, rugged and calm, lined with exhaustion but strangely soft around the edges. He stared into the flames as if they carried answers to unspoken questions. No words came from him, only silence and the warmth of the fire he had made. It unsettled her more than threats ever could. Finally, her voice broke the quiet. "You should hate me," she whispered, pulling the coat tighter around herself. "Your people fought. Mine, your soldiers hunted mine." The human did not look at her right away. When he did, his gaze was sharp but not cruel. "I don't hate you," he said. "I see someone who would die without help." The words struck her harder than any weapon. No one had spoken to her like that before, not even among her own kind. She wanted to argue, to remind him of the battles, the blood, the war that burned between them. But her voice failed, trapped by the strange safety she felt beside him. Outside, the ruins groaned, with the weight of ice, and distant sounds carried through the dark, metal shifting, boots crunching in snow, machines humming like predators. The alien girl's eyes widened with fear, her body tensing. She whispered, "They are searching," her voice trembling. "They will find us." The human leaned forward, tossing another broken plank into the fire. "Let them search," he said calmly. "They will not take you tonight." Her heart raced at the certainty in his tone. Why would a human soldier risk himself for her? She hugged the coat tighter, shivering. Not from the cold this time, but from the storm inside her. Every moment near him twisted her beliefs, breaking everything she thought she knew about humans. The firelight cast shadows across his face, highlighting the sharpness of his jaw, the steadiness in his eyes. He looked like a warrior, but his voice carried no threat, only calm resolve. When the wind howled louder, he shifted, moving to sit closer to her. "You are still shaking," he said. "The fire is not enough." Her breath caught as he stretched his arm carefully, resting it around her shoulders. She stiffened, instinct screaming to pull away. But the warmth of his body pressed against hers, steady and strong. The fear inside her wavered, replaced by something else. Something dangerous. Something she had no name for. Her eyes darted up to him, searching his face for hidden intent. But he looked only at the fire. His jaw set, as if protecting her was the most natural thing in the world. No hunger, no cruelty, no demand in his expression, only that strange, impossible kindness. Her throat tightened, her voice soft as a whisper. "What do you want from me?" she asked, the question spilling from her heart. The human's eyes flickered to hers for a moment. "Nothing," he said simply. "Not everything is about war." The words felt heavier than the coat around her. Her people would never believe such a thing. And yet, here he was, risking the cold, risking the night, all for a girl who should have been his enemy. She pressed closer to the fire, but part of her leaned just a little more against him. It felt wrong. It felt dangerous, but it also felt safe. Her thoughts swirled, her chest tight as though something new had awakened inside her with the flames. Hours passed slowly, each minute heavy with silence and unspoken tension. The alien girl listened to the rhythm of his breathing, steady against the chaos in her mind. Every crack of the fire, every gust of wind, every faint sound beyond the ruins reminded her they were not truly safe. But for the first time since the war began, she felt something stronger than fear. Hope as the flames flickered lower. She pulled the coat closer, whispering almost to herself, "You are not what they told me." The human's eyes met hers through the dying firelight, and for a moment neither spoke. But in that silence, something unshakable formed, a bond that even war could not explain. The night stretched long, but no longer felt endless. For, between the fire and the human beside her, the alien girl realized she was no longer frozen. She was no longer alone. And somewhere deep inside, she knew. This was only the beginning. The night was deep and the fire burned lower, sending only faint light against the broken walls around them. The alien girl pulled the coat tighter, her body still weak but warmer than before. Beside her, the human sat silent, his rifle resting on his lap, his eyes sharp, watching the shadows like a guardian. The crackling of the fire was the only sound between them. Yet her heart was louder than the flames. Every time she looked at him, her chest tightened. He was supposed to be her enemy, yet he had given her warmth, fire, and safety. Her people would call it weakness. Her commanders would call it betrayal. But in this silence, all she felt was confusion, confusion that tasted sweeter than fear. A cold gust swept through the ruins, making the flames dance wildly. She flinched, but then felt his arm shift against her shoulder, steadying her. He didn't speak, he didn't explain, he just held her a little closer. Her alien heart raced, every beat echoing in her ears. She wanted to pull away, but her body betrayed her. Leaning into his strength, the warmth of him was different from the fire. The fire burned hot and bright, but his warmth was steady, alive, and unshakable. It was dangerous, she thought, more dangerous than any weapon. The night was not empty. In the distance, machines hummed, alien hunters searching the battlefield for survivors. Their lights moved across the snow, sweeping like cold eyes. The girl's breath caught in her throat, her hands trembling. If they found her here, they would kill him first, then drag her away like a captured animal. The human's hand rose, quiet and firm, his finger pressed gently to her lips. "Silence," he whispered, his eyes never leaving the shadows. Her heart pounded as she froze beneath his touch, her wide eyes locked onto his face. For a long moment, the world felt still, only the fire and his steady breath grounding her. The hunters passed slowly, their machines creaking, their voices sharp in the cold night. The girl's body shook with fear, but the human did not move, his arm around her, holding her still. Only when the machines faded into the distance did he lower his hand, his shoulders relaxing just slightly. The girl released a shaky breath she didn't know she was holding. She turned to him, her voice trembling. "You could have left me," she whispered. "They would not have hunted you if I was gone." The human shook his head, his gaze returning to the fire. "Maybe," he said quietly, "but I will not leave you." Her throat tightened at his words. Not leave her, not abandon her. Those words cut deeper than the cold, because her own people had left her without a second thought. And yet this human, her enemy, had chosen to stay. The fire burned lower, shadows crawling across the broken stone walls. The girl shifted slightly, her eyes watching him, her voice small. "You are not afraid of me," she said, almost questioning. The human's lips curved into the smallest of smiles, though his eyes remained sharp. "No," he said simply. "I have seen fear, and you are not it." Her breath caught, her heart racing again. She wanted to speak, to say something, anything, but no words came. The silence between them was no longer empty. It was heavy, full, alive. Every flicker of the fire, every glance, every breath carried a weight she did not understand. She looked at his hand resting on his rifle, steady and strong. Her gaze moved to the coat on her shoulders, still warm with his body heat. Then her eyes rose to his face, calm and unyielding in the firelight. Something inside her whispered that this man, this human, was more dangerous than the war itself. Not because he carried a weapon, but because he carried something she could not fight. Kindness. Her chest tightened painfully, her alien heart pounding. She whispered softly, almost too quiet to hear. "You are not what they told me." The human did not respond right away. He only added another piece of wood to the fire, watching the sparks rise into the cold night. The girl turned away, hugging the coat around her, her mind in chaos. She should hate him. She should fear him. She should wait for a chance to escape. But instead, she found herself leaning closer to his warmth. And for the first time, she was afraid not of him, but of what she was starting to feel. The fire flickered lower and the night pressed in. Between them, the silence grew heavier. A silence filled not with fear, but with unspoken tension. The girl closed her eyes, knowing deep inside that something had changed. Something dangerous, something irreversible. And with every breath she took beside him, she felt it grow stronger. The night stretched on, heavy with silence. But peace never lasted long in a war zone. The alien girl sat close to the fire, her alien eyes heavy but still alert, every flicker of flame casting strange shadows across her pale skin. The human remained beside her, his hand resting near his rifle, his body calm but ready. He had not spoken much, yet his presence was louder than words, steady and unshakable. Then the sound came, crunching boots in the snow, sharp voices in the distance, metallic hums that shook the frozen air. The girl's breath caught instantly. Her people were near, hunters searching the ruins for survivors. She froze, her heart pounding like a trapped bird. If they found her, they would kill the human without hesitation. The human's eyes narrowed, his hand moving slowly to grip his weapon. He didn't panic. He didn't shout. He simply leaned close, his voice low and firm. "Stay quiet," he whispered. She nodded weakly, fear trembling through her veins. The fire burned too bright, its glow spilling into the broken walls. If the hunters saw the light, they would know someone was alive. The human reached out, grabbing a piece of metal, pushing snow over the flames, dimming the fire into glowing embers. The sudden darkness pressed in, making the girl's skin crawl. Shadows moved across the ruins as the hunters drew closer. The girl clutched the coat around her body, her chest rising and falling too quickly. She wanted to run, but the human's steady hand pressed against her shoulder, holding her still, his eyes locked on hers, silent but commanding. "Trust me," that look seemed to say. Voices echoed, harsh and sharp, the alien language spilling through the cold air. Her people, her soldiers, the ones she should have felt safe with. But now, their voices carried only danger. The girl's throat tightened as she realized they would not save her. They would only punish her for failing, punish her for being weak. The human pulled her closer, guiding her behind a broken wall of stone and metal. She pressed against him, her body trembling as the hunter's shadows passed by. Her face was inches from his chest, his heartbeat steady against her skin. Every sound outside made her flinch, but his arms stayed firm, keeping her hidden, keeping her safe. One of the hunters paused, their light sweeping dangerously close. The girl's heart stopped, her breath frozen. She felt the human's hand cover her lips gently, silencing even the smallest sound. His other hand tightened on his rifle, ready if the moment turned deadly. The hunter's light hovered over the wreckage. Seconds stretched like eternity. The girl's wide alien eyes met the human's steady gaze. In that silence, she realized something. He wasn't just protecting himself. He was protecting her first, risking his life for hers, even though they were enemies. At last, the light moved away, the sound of boots fading into the distance. The human slowly lowered his hand, his breath steady. The girl let out a shaky gasp, her entire body weak with relief. Her hands trembled as she whispered, "They would have killed you." The human gave a faint nod, his voice calm. "Maybe," he said. "But they did not." Her chest tightened painfully, confusion swirling inside her. Why would he risk himself for her? Why protect her when her own people had left her behind? The human stood slowly, scanning the area before sitting back near the dim fire. His expression never wavered, calm and strong. The girl moved closer to him, unable to stop herself. She whispered again, her voice fragile. "You should not have done that." He turned his head slightly, meeting her gaze through the darkness. "If I hadn't," he said, "you would not be here now." Her breath shook, her eyes filling with something she did not understand. She wrapped the coat tighter, but no amount of cloth could warm the storm inside her. He had saved her life not once but twice, and with each moment the line between enemy and protector blurred. The ruins fell silent again, but the silence was not the same as before. It was heavier, filled with the weight of what had just happened. The girl leaned against the broken wall, her heart still racing, her mind whispering warnings she no longer wanted to hear. Beside her, the human sat steady, his presence strong enough to chase away the fear that still lingered. The first test of the night had passed, but she knew deep down, greater trials still waited, and with every passing moment, her trust in him grew stronger. Dangerous, unshakable, impossible trust. The fire was nothing more than dim embers now, glowing faintly under the broken sky. The alien girl sat with her knees pulled close, her body wrapped in the human's coat, her thoughts restless. Her heart was not steady, it was torn, pulled, between two worlds. The human had saved her again, risking his life without hesitation, yet her people's voices echoed inside her mind, reminding her of who she was supposed to be. A sudden crackle broke the silence. Her communicator, hidden under her belt, flickered with a faint glow. She froze, her eyes wide, her hands trembling as the voice of her commander spilled out, harsh and sharp. "Report now, soldier," the voice demanded. "Tell us if the human is alive. Tell us his location. Obey." Her throat tightened, every word stabbing like a blade. The communicator repeated the call, her commander's tone colder. Then the wind. "Do not fail again. Do not dishonor your kind." The girl's chest ached, her hand hovering over the device. If she answered, she would betray the human sitting only steps away. If she stayed silent, she would betray her people. The human noticed her trembling hands, his sharp eyes moving from the communicator to her face. He said nothing, only reached into his pack and pulled out a canteen of water, offering it calmly. His expression held no demand, no judgment, only quiet patience. She stared at him, her mind screaming in chaos. Her people had left her behind, but still their voices chained her. This human had saved her, but still she feared the cost of her choice. She whispered softly, almost choking on the words, "They want me to betray you." The human's face did not change, his voice steady as he replied, "And will you?" The question cut through the night like a blade. Her breath shook as she looked into his eyes, steady and unflinching. He was not begging. He was not accusing. He was simply asking. The choice was hers, not his. Her hand hovered near the communicator, the voice of her commander growing sharper, angrier. "Report now, soldier," the voice demanded again, "or you will not live to see another day." The girl's fingers shook, her alien eyes filling with tears she refused to let fall. She thought of the cold, the fire, the coat around her shoulders. She thought of his hand silencing her when danger came, protecting her without hesitation. She thought of the warmth she had begged for, and the warmth he had given freely. Her chest felt as though it would break. She wanted to scream, but no sound came. Instead, she grabbed the communicator. With trembling fingers, the human's eyes remained on her, calm but watchful. She raised the device to her lips, the commander's voice filling her ears once more. "Speak, soldier. Where is the human?" Her lips parted, her voice shaking, but instead of betrayal, she said only one word. "Dead." Silence followed, heavy and sharp. The commander's voice returned, low and suspicious. "Dead, you say?" "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling but firm. "He is gone." Her hand lowered, switching the communicator off, the glow vanishing into darkness. Her body shook violently. Her heart racing, she had lied. She had chosen against her own people. Her throat burned as though fire itself lived inside her. The human leaned closer, his voice low but calm. "You didn't have to do that." Her eyes shot to his, wide and wet. "Yes, I did," she whispered back. "Because I cannot let them take you." The words escaped her before she could stop them, and once spoken, she could not take them back. Her body trembled, her chest heavy with fear. Not fear of him, but fear of what she had just done. The human's gaze held hers for a long moment. Then slowly he gave a small nod. "You chose," he said simply. The weight of those words crushed her and freed her all at once. She turned away, her hands covering her face. Her people would hunt her now, punish her if they learned the truth. But in her heart she knew she could not undo her choice. She had chosen warmth over cold, trust over fear, humanity over loyalty. The fire glowed faintly, but inside her chest a different fire burned. The girl leaned against the broken wall, whispering to herself, "What have I done?" Beside her, the human sat silently, watching the darkness. Neither spoke further, but both knew the truth. The bond between them was no longer a fragile thread, it was unbreakable, forged in fire, danger, and a single impossible choice. The ruins were silent again, but silence did not mean safety. The alien girl's hand still shook from the lie she had spoken into the communicator. Her commander's voice echoed in her mind, filled with suspicion and anger. She had betrayed her own kind, and there was no turning back. The human watched her quietly, his rifle resting across his knees. His eyes were steady, calm as always, but sharper now, searching her face. He knew what she had done. He knew the risk she had taken, but he said nothing more, only gave her that same silence that made her heart twist. The girl wrapped the coat tighter around her fragile frame, her chest heavy with fear. Her people would not believe her words for long. They would come, they would search, and they would find the truth. And when they did, she would be branded. A traitor, punished, erased. Her heart trembled at the thought. But then her eyes moved to the human sitting beside her, his face lit faintly by the dying embers. He had not asked her to choose him. He had not begged for her loyalty. And yet, she had chosen. Not because of orders, not because of duty, but because of him. The sound of boots shattered the silence again. This time closer, heavier, more deliberate. The girl's blood ran cold as harsh voices echoed through the ruins. "They said he was dead," one soldier growled. "But we search anyway." Another voice snapped. "Find the human, find the girl, leave nothing." Her chest tightened, panic rising. She turned to the human, her alien eyes wide with terror. "They are here," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They know." The human stood slowly, his movements precise, his rifle ready. His expression remained calm, but there was steel in his voice. "Then we make them believe." He guided her deeper into the ruins. The fire, now nothing more than ash. They crouched behind a broken wall, the shadows swallowing them. The girl's heart pounded so loudly she feared the soldiers would hear. The human leaned close, his breath warm against her ear. "When they come," he whispered, "do not speak, do not move." Her throat burned with fear, but she nodded. The voices grew louder, the hunter's lights cutting through the darkness. Like knives, the girl pressed against the wall, her body trembling as footsteps drew closer. Her people's voices echoed, sharp and cruel. "She was weak," one spat. "If she lives, she is nothing but shame." Her stomach twisted, her eyes filling with silent tears. Even now, even as they searched, her people had no mercy for her. The human's hand brushed against hers, steadying her shaking body. Her eyes flicked to his face, calm and focused. He did not speak, but his presence anchored her. She held her breath as the hunters passed, their shadows sliding over the broken walls. One stopped suddenly. A beam of light swept dangerously close, landing on the ashes of the fire. "Someone was here," the soldier hissed. "Close." The girl's heart stopped, her body frozen. The human shifted, his rifle lifting silently, his eyes narrowing. For a moment, time held its breath. The soldier's light moved over the ruins, pausing just above their hiding place. The girl's chest ached, her breath trapped, inside. If the soldier looked lower, they would be found, and then everything would end. The human's arm slid gently in front of her, shielding her body with his own. Her eyes widened, her chest tightening at the sight. He was ready to take the blow, ready to die first if it meant she might live. Her alien heart throbbed with a pain she had never known. Not fear, not weakness, but something stronger, something she could not name. The soldier lingered, his light steady. Then, slowly, it moved away. The voices faded again, footsteps crunching back into the distance. The girl collapsed against the wall, her entire body trembling with relief. The human lowered his rifle, his breath calm as if death had never stood inches away. She turned to him, her voice breaking. You shielded me," she whispered. His gaze met hers, steady and unflinching. "You chose me," he replied quietly. "I will not let that choice be wasted." Her throat tightened, her chest burning. In that moment, she understood the truth. She was no longer a soldier of her people. She was no longer bound by their orders. She was his now, not as property, not as prisoner, but as something deeper. Her choice had tied her fate to his, and his actions had sealed it. The ruins fell, silent again, the danger fading into the frozen night. But silence no longer meant fear. It meant survival, it meant trust, it meant the beginning of something impossible. The alien girl pressed closer to him, her trembling slowing at last, and for the first time, she did not feel like a soldier or an enemy or a traitor. She felt alive. The first light of dawn broke across the ruins. The icy night faded slowly, painting the snow in pale gold. The alien girl opened her eyes, her body still wrapped in the human's coat, her mind heavy but strangely calm. Beside her, the human sat awake, his rifle across his knees, his eyes scanning the horizon as if danger still lingered. The girl sat up slowly, her breath rising in small clouds. She looked around at the frozen battlefield, broken machines half buried in snow, silent reminders of the war that had taken everything from her. For the first time, the sight did not fill her with fear. It filled her with something else, because in the middle of all that destruction, she was alive. Not because of her people, but because of him. Her chest tightened as memories of the night returned, the warmth of his coat, the fire he built, the danger they faced, the hunters who almost found them. And above all, the moment he shielded her with his own body. She pressed a hand against her chest, her alien heart racing at the memory. The human turned his head, his eyes meeting hers. "You should eat," he said simply, handing her a small ration from his pack. She stared at the food in her hands, her throat tight. It wasn't much, but it felt like more than a meal. It felt like trust, like a gift she had never been given before. Her voice broke softly. "Why do you keep helping me?" she whispered. The human studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Finally he spoke, his voice steady. "Because no one deserves to be left to die." Her eyes filled, tears threatening to fall. No one had ever said such words to her. Her people saw her as weak, disposable, replaceable. But to him she was something worth saving. The weight of that truth pressed deep inside her, changing everything she believed. The sound of distant engines rumbled through the air. Both turned their heads, seeing ships moving far across the horizon. Her people were leaving the area, retreating. To regroup, the human lowered his rifle, his shoulders easing slightly. "For now," he said, "we are safe." The girl clutched the coat tighter, staring at the empty sky. She knew she could not return to her people, not after what she had done, not after the lies she had spoken. If they discovered her betrayal, she would be punished, erased from existence. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "I have no home. Now?" The human looked at her, his gaze steady. "You have a choice," he said. "You can walk away from me or you can stay." Her chest ached at his words, simple but heavy. He was not commanding her. He was not binding her. He was offering her something her people never had: freedom. The girl looked at him, her alien eyes wide and uncertain. She thought of the night, of the warmth, of the fire that kept her alive. She thought of the silence that was no longer empty, but full of trust and unspoken promise. And she thought of the way he shielded her, ready to die so she might live. Her throat tightened as the truth became clear. She whispered softly, her voice breaking. "I asked only for warmth," she said, "but you gave me more than I ever thought possible." The human's lips curved into the faintest smile. "You're safe now," he replied quietly. "As long as you stay with me." Her heart trembled, her body shivering not from cold, but from something deeper. For the first time, she felt free. Not as a soldier, not as an enemy, not as a burden, but as herself, alive, seen, and chosen. The war no longer mattered, the voices of her commanders no longer mattered. All that mattered was the path ahead, and the human walking it beside her. The dawn grew brighter, chasing away the shadows of the night. The girl rose slowly, pulling the coat close as she stepped beside him. The battlefield was behind them, the unknown future ahead, but she no longer feared it, because the moment she chose him and the moment he chose her back, everything changed forever. Together they walked into the rising sun. Not enemies, not strangers, but something more. Something that war could never break. A bond forged in fire, in danger, in warmth. A bond that made the frozen girl believe. Again, and as they disappeared into the light, she whispered one last thought to herself. This is only the beginning.